it's Seraphina. Tonight I want to share a story close to my heart. It's about a friend of mine, someone who showed incredible strength through life's hardships. Her story is one of resilience, of finding hope even in the most challenging times, and of discovering her true self in a world that often tried to stifle her spirit. Before we begin, please remember to subscribe and follow if you haven't already. I love sharing these reflective stories with you. Your support means so much to me. Let's take a deep breath, settle in, and listen to this tale of quiet strength and self-discovery. This story is about my friend Lily. Lily was one of those rare people who seemed to carry a quiet depth within her, a wisdom that went beyond her years. She had been through more than most people her age, yet there was a gentleness in her, a kind of grace that made you feel at ease in her presence. But Lily's life had not been easy. She had spent much of her childhood feeling alone, facing challenges that would test her strength repeatedly. Her story begins in a small town where she grew up, surrounded by people who often misunderstood her. From a young age, Lily was different. She loved to read, explore, and ask questions that others found strange or even unsettling. She was quiet, introspective, and sensitive, qualities that set her apart in a place where people valued conformity and tradition. Lily's life changes when she is sent to live with distant relatives. Her parents had passed away when she was young, and with no close family to take her in, she found herself in the care of an aunt and uncle who saw her more as a burden than a child. They were strict and unkind and did little to hide their resentment toward her presence in their home. The atmosphere was cold, the walls filled with silence and unspoken tension. Lily was often left alone, spending long hours in her room. Her only companions were the books she managed to borrow from the local library. These books became her escape, her refuge from the isolation and loneliness that surrounded her. She would lose herself in stories of adventure, resilience, and people who, like her, had faced hardships but found a way to rise above them. One winter, things took a darker turn. Her relatives, already resentful, grew even colder, isolating her further. She became more of a servant than a member of the family, responsible for cleaning, cooking, and tending to the household. They would barely acknowledge her presence, and any small mistake was met with harsh words and punishment. But Lily held on to a quiet strength. She didn't complain. She didn't rebel. Instead, she found solace in the little moments of peace she could steal. A few minutes of reading by candlelight before bed. A quick walk in the nearby fields where she could feel the wind on her face and remember that there was a world beyond those walls. One day, something unexpected happened. While running an errand for her aunt, she met a woman named Alice, who was new to the town. Alice was a teacher and an artist, someone with a warmth and openness that Lily hadn't experienced in a long time. They started a conversation, and to Lily's surprise, Alice seemed genuinely interested in her thoughts, dreams, and passions. Over the next few months, Alice became a mentor to Lily, a confidant who helped her see that her life didn't have to be defined by the walls of her aunt and uncle's home. Alice would lend her books, teach her about art and poetry, and encourage her to express herself in ways she never had before. With Alice Alice's guidance, Lily began to find her voice, to understand that she was worth more than the cold indifference of her relatives. But just as she began to find a sense of belonging, life threw her another challenge. Alice had to leave the town unexpectedly due to family matters, and Lily was left alone again. Losing Alice felt like losing a lifeline, a connection to a world of kindness and possibility. For a time, she retreated even further into herself, the walls of her aunt and uncle's home feeling more suffocating than ever. But despite the loss, something had changed within Lily. Alice's friendship had given her a glimpse of what life could be, of the possibilities that lay beyond her circumstances. She held on to Alice's lessons, carrying them like a flame in her heart, a source of strength that no one could take from her. As the years went on, Lily found herself drawn to a nearby school, where she eventually became a teaching assistant. It wasn't the life of freedom she had imagined, but it was a step toward independence, a way to begin building her own life. The school was modest, and the children were often rowdy, but there was a joy in her work that she hadn't felt in years. She loved helping the children learn, watching them discover new things with a sense of wonder that reminded her of her childhood dreams. Of course, her relatives disapproved, insisting that her place was in their home, serving their needs. But for the first time, Lily began to assert herself. She pushed back against their demands quietly but firmly, and soon they realized that she was no longer the timid girl they had once controlled. It was around this time that Lily met a man named Edward. Edward was quiet, thoughtful, and he too carried a sense of melancholy, as though he had his own burdens that weighed on him. They bonded over their shared experiences of hardship, and there was a connection between them that went beyond words. Edward admired her resilience, her ability to find beauty in the simplest things, despite everything she had been through. For a while, it seemed as though Lily had found the life she had always dreamed of, a job she loved, a person who understood her, and the quiet, peaceful life she had longed for. But Edward had secrets, shadows from his past that would eventually threaten to undo the happiness they had built together. When the truth about Edward's past came to light, it shook Lily. She felt betrayed, lost, and unsure of what was real and what wasn't. The life she had so carefully constructed felt crumbling, and she was again thrust into a world of uncertainty. For days she wrestled with the weight of his secrets, torn between her love for him and the realization that she might never fully understand parts of his life. But in that moment of despair, Lily discovered a strength within herself that she hadn't known before. She realized that her worth wasn't defined by Edward, or by her past, or by the hardships she had faced. She had the power to shape her life and decide her own path, regardless of the circumstances around her. Lily made the difficult decision to leave Edward. It wasn't an easy choice. She cared for him deeply, but she knew that she couldn't compromise her own sense of self for anyone. She returned to her work, throwing herself into teaching with a renewed sense of purpose. Her experiences had taught her resilience and shown her that she could survive even the darkest moments. Over time, she built a new life that was simple, but filled with the quiet joy of doing something meaningful. She continued to write, paint, and express herself in ways that allowed her to keep growing and healing. And though there were still moments of sadness and longing, she knew that she had the strength to face them. I visited Lily recently, and she seemed at peace. There was a calmness in her that I hadn't seen before, a sense of contentment that came from knowing herself, from understanding her worth. She had faced so much, but she had come out of it with an unbroken spirit, a heart that was still open to love and life. As we sat together, sipping tea in her little cottage, she turned to me with a gentle smile and said, "Sometimes the hardest thing is simply to believe that you are enough." Her words stayed with me, a reminder that we all have the strength to rise above, to create our own lives, no matter our challenges. Take a deep breath in and let it out. Thank you for spending this time with me tonight and listening to Lily's story. It's a reminder that resilience isn't about falling down. It's about finding the strength to get back up, to believe in ourselves, even when life seems determined to test us. May her story bring you peace, and perhaps even inspire you to find that quiet strength within yourself. Until next time, sweet dreams, lovely friend. Good night, Seraphina.